Oh, hey, sup, it's Ralph Bob.
Warlocks.
The original World of Warcraft edgelords. Before the Dirty Death Knights and the dastardly demon hunters, there was warlocks. Edgelording it up for us all. And if you are a warlock going into Shadowlands, then I'm going to go over the talents for warlocks, which ones are going to be the best choices for you to level up. If you are a warlock or you're interested in trying to play a warlock, make sure to subscribe, and we'll get into the talents right now. So let's get right into the talents, but first I have to give a disclaimer that Warlock is probably one of my least played classes, but I'm trying it out. It was requested by one of our subscribers, Deadcon. I want to give it a shot, and it's actually not too complicated. It took me a little bit to get the feel for it. I talked to my buddy Salvio, who's also a subscriber here on the channel, and he's a Warlock main, so he helped me out a little bit to understand what's going on. So the first row is probably the most competitive row for me. So Nightfall is a corruption damage, has a chance to cause your next Shadow Bolt to be instacast. This isn't bad, it's not the worst. It doesn't proc as much as I'd like it to make it feel like that impactful, and Shadow Bolt doesn't really do that much damage anyway. The normal rotation is putting up dots and then waiting for Shadow Bolt to become instacast, and if you don't have anything else to cast, you just keep casting Shadow Bolt until things die. But I don't particularly like that for leveling. It might be okay for dungeons and stuff. Inevitable Demise, damaging an enemy with agony increases the damage of your next drain life by 15%. It stacks up to 50 times. This isn't too bad either. So if you're fighting a lot of things and you're putting agony on, and then you have this max stack drain life and you're like at half health, and then you just start the next mob with a drain life, or finish off the next mob with a drain life and get yourself back to full health, it's not a bad choice. I wouldn't say it's something that's really necessary, but if you're having trouble, you might want to choose this one. If you're having trouble living, then you might want to choose this one. Now, Drained Soul is something that I've been messing around with, and I've been getting used to. It basically replaces Shadow Bolt, and it's a channeled spell, and it's kind of like an execute. It does increased damage by 100% of enemies below 20% health. So what I'll do is I'll start off my rotation with all the dots and stuff, and eventually it'll get to the point where they hit about 20% health, and then I can use just Drained Soul to finish it off. And it also generates a soul shard, so you're never out of soul shards to keep going and continuing on to the next enemy. So I kind of prefer Drained Soul. Icy Vein says Nightfall. I say Drained Soul. Next row, it's not really that competitive. It's either between Writhe of Agony or Absolute Corruption. And Absolute Corruption to me seems like the best choice. Its corruption is now permanent and deals 15% increased damage. So you can literally just have corruption on a target permanently forever. I was sitting here AFK with corruption on this dummy, and it just was there for like 30 minutes. It just kept going. This is good because you don't have to keep reapplying corruption, and also Seed of Corruption. If you're fighting an AoE pack and you use Seed of Corruption, it just corrupts everything, and it's a permanent dot, and you're just constantly doing damage. Writhe of Agony is just, it stacks at higher stacks, so you do more damage within the short term quicker, I guess. Honestly, stacking Agony up to 18 doesn't really affect you while you're leveling, I don't think. I prefer to just keep having corruption on. And then Siphon Life, if you're struggling to survive, then you can use Siphon Life as well. But you already have Drain Life, so it's not really that big of a choice, I would say. This next one is kind of up to personal preference. You have Demon Skin, which will help you regenerate health and such, and you get like a little absorb shield, which isn't too bad. Burning Rush. Now this is for the player that wants to go, right? So if you're not struggling to survive, if you know how to work a Warlock, you go Burning Rush right here, and you're zooming to the next target. It's basically like it's basically like a ghost wolf that does damage to you. So you got to remember, you get increased 50%. But you also got to remember that it drains your health while you're doing it. Like, you're literally burning alive. You're running so fast like Sonic, and you're burning yourself. I'm gonna go with Burning Rush because it's kind of fun to balance that between pulls. It's kind of an interesting thing to do. Dark Pack is a cooldown. I don't, like I said in my last videos, I don't really do cooldowns. I don't like things that are cooldown, but this is a oh shit button. It'll sacrifice 20% of your health and give you a shield. So you can save yourself and then like drain life. I think Burning Rush is a little bit more fun, especially if you know how to play the Warlock in a competent manner. The next one is going to be Phantom Singularity. It's just another dot, but it's an AoE dot, and Affliction Warlock, one of the weak spots of it is that it has a weak AoE. And a lot of the trouble that I was having with Affliction Warlock is like little packs of like 3 or 4 that don't have a lot of health, but you don't want to just sit there and like dotting them up like the whole thing. It's just, I want to have something that does a little bit of damage, and you just put this on a target and it does damage, and it also heals you as well. So that's something to keep in mind as well. So the Seeds just puts another seed onto some extra enemies. It's kind of whatever. It's not really good for leveling, I don't think. Vile Taint. Unleash a vile explosion at the target location, dealing certain amount of damage and reducing their movement speed by 30%. So this is just a real quick explosion. It puts an extra dot on them. I'm pretty sure it works with Malefic Rupture, which every time you have every extra dot you have on something, it does extra damage. So this could be good to give like a little bit burst, but once it's done, it's done. It has a 20-second cooldown. It slows enemies down as well, so I don't know. This might be a good choice. I like this one personally. You just shoot it and it's going, and it does AoE damage. You can see it pulsing, boom, boom. I prefer this, and it heals you. Phantom Singularity is the choice for the Icy Veins, and it's the choice for me. It's the Ralph Bob choice. The next one is Mortal Coil. This is probably the obvious choice. It's another thing that gives you heal, but it also keeps you alive. It fears an enemy instantly, and also heals you. That's why I wouldn't choose Siphon Life or Inevitable Demise, because you have plenty of ways to keep yourself alive while you're during combat. Howl of Terror is something that fears everything. This is kind of an oh shit button. Mortal Coil can be enough to save you, as well as just the normal fear. Dark Fury is the increasing of the radius of Shadow Fury and decreases the cooldown. It's just a big stun. I don't really find myself using this that often anyway. This is more like for stunning packs and dungeons, I would imagine. So I'm just gonna say Mortal Coil for this one. It's a pretty easy choice. The next one is Haunt. Haunt is what you're gonna start off most of your fights with. It's another dot, but it also increases damage dealt by the target by 10%. So you're gonna start off with Haunt and then start dotting up your target and then just start rolling. It's just an extra 10% extra damage buff. It's perfect. And it's another dot, so you do more damage with Malefic Rupture. Perfect. Grimoire of Sacrifice is another cooldown. Sacrifice your demon for power. You don't really want to be doing this, especially like if you're using a Void Boy. If you're using a Void Boy, then you don't want to keep summoning your freaking pet while you're leveling. It's kind of annoying. I mean, it lasts for an hour. So this is basically if you don't want to control a pet. That's all it is. If you don't want to control a pet, you're doing extra damage. If you kind of feel like you don't need a pet and you don't want to control one or deal with one, then you go with this. But honestly, the Void Boy is good enough, and he'll help you tank stuff and keep things off of you and make sure you're not being interrupted while you're casting. Dark Caller reduces the cooldown of the Dark Glare cooldown that you have, which reduces it to 2 minutes. It doesn't really matter. You're not going to fight anything that's super big every 2 minutes. You'll use this on like a rare mob or questing. Just go with Haunt. Haunt is perfectly fine. It's part of the rotation. Increases your damage. Good to go. The last one is probably the toughest. Icy Veins says Soul Conduit. I don't particularly like the stuff that you have a chance to be refunded of a soul shard or something like that. I don't really like those. That's a really small % chance. I'm not going to see that proc very often. I'm using Drained Soul personally, so I'm constantly recharging soul shards anyway. So this isn't really something that I like, especially like you probably won't even see this proc when you need it to proc. So my choice here is Creeping Death, your Agony, Corruption, Siphon Life, and Unstable Affliction. Basically all of your 3 main damaging dots deal their full damage 15% faster. So while you're leveling, they're doing their damage a lot faster, and you're just your dots just hitting a lot faster on the target, so you're able to take things down quicker. That seems pretty logical to me, to be killing things a little bit faster over time and getting them down to Drained Soul 20% execute phase. And yeah, so I personally like Creeping Death. Dark Misery is another cooldown. I don't do cooldowns while leveling. It's not for me. So that's that. Thank you for watching. I hope you had a good time watching and you learned something and that you are excited for Shadowlands. Remember to subscribe, like, comment. Maybe your comment will be featured in the next video. And remember, Shadowlands stream. We're doing a Shadowlands launch stream on the 23rd, pretty much all night. If you want to come and level with us, come and level with us. It's going to be a fun time. Thank you guys for watching. Keep it rock solid, and I will see you next time.